Well, hello everyone. I'm Dan Turbyville, and this is Powerhouse Fence Show. Thanks for stopping by. This week, we're going to talk about the fear of letting go. It's a struggle, it's a fear. I'll share some stories of things that I've encountered. We'll explore at least one story that some other people encountered, because it wouldn't be an episode of Powerhouse without a little historical story in here. And we'll talk about how if you don't let go, you can't grow. And that's what's in store for you this week. The show is sponsored by Memphis Fence Company, Simpalo, and Valgard Strategies Group. And we have some partners here on the show, the Thornton Fence Consulting Group, Fence News, and EZG Manufacturing. They are all linked in the description if you want to learn more about them. We also have the link to the Thornton Fence Consulting Group's school, like online educational stuff. Ton of content on there. If you're interested, you can also go to the link in the description. They're partners because I believe in their stuff. I like their stuff, or they're good people, or all of the above. And so that's how they got to be there. The show is indeed live. You can call if you want to be on the show. 901-878-4987. You can also call me anytime if you have questions or want to just cuss me out and tell me I'm wrong. So haven't really been listening to anything exciting. Doing some podcasts. I did check out episode number 500 that Dan Wheeler did. That's pretty awesome. Congratulations on that. Aside from that, I'm still making my way through Henry Ford's autobiography. So that's my audiobook that I'm on right now, listening to the Founders podcast, been listening to a little bit of the Bible Project podcast. So, just kind of hopping around. If you like this show, if you find value in it, maybe share it with a friend, leave a review, something like that. Just some kind of way that we can maybe reach some more people and help some more people. If you've listened to the show, we're not monetized. We have no sponsors that pay us anything. So it's not about any of that. I genuinely just sit here every week and tell stories, and hopefully I can share something that'll help someone. So you also can find the show on all your major podcast platforms. So you can listen while you're driving or while you're sleeping or whatever, just as long as you're listening, that's cool. So AFA University is right around the corner. I will be there teaching operations management school. It's OMS, whichever one of those it is. So this will be my first time going to AFAU. I'm pretty excited to see what it's all about. We have refined and tested OMS. We've taught it a couple of times so far. We spent a bunch of time refining it. There's a new book, there's new slides, there's new tests, there's new everything. I took the test and fortunately I did pass. So I am now a certified operations manager through the AFA. Go me. Make sure you follow Memphis Fence and Paulo Powerhouse, things like that on social media. We've been putting out a lot of cool content that's maybe you'll enjoy it, right? Just go check it out. It's cool. I think we're going to do an episode. I don't know when, but I think I'd like to do one and just kind of show all of the different audio, video equipment, stuff like that we have. And just to show you that there's like some pretty simple things that you can do to go out and capture content. You don't have to go out and buy $10,000 cameras and things like that. You can keep it simple and you can produce some good stuff with some pretty simple, less expensive equipment. And I think we might go through that one day. We got Mark Cobb stopping by. Hello, Mark. Thanks for being here. All right. And with that, we're going to get into the show. I try to keep that intro piece as quick as I can because I doubt many people are really here to hear that, right? You probably want to hear something, the meat and potatoes, let's say. All right. So we are going to talk about the fear of letting go and systems and processes and things like that can provide you with some freedom and just the overall concept that you have to let go if you want to grow, right? I mean, there's no way you can do it all. You wind up being the bottleneck and you kind of restrict the rest of your team and you don't let them do what they need to do for your business to succeed, and it just gets messy. So if you do want to grow, you have to figure out how to let go. So way back in the early days of me owning Memphis Fence, we were bidding a lot of residential jobs. And before I bought the company, there was this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that had all the price sheet, all the rates on it for residential fence. So it was all per foot. It had different prices on there for different sizes of jobs and for gates and options and, tear out and like all of your common stuff. Something like that. I mean, if you can get 80 or 90% of what you're looking at, then you're doing good, right? Yes, we did bid residential jobs by the foot. Yes, we were still able to make money doing jobs. Uh, my opinion, I think the price per foot thing is fine, but hey, ultimately, the best thing you can do is do whatever works for you, right? So, and I think it's really important to give a customer a price while you're standing there on site. I think it helps you sell jobs. I think it helps you sell yourself to them and show, like, hey, we're going to provide you this type of service and we're giving you a price right now. Right. So if you can do all of that, I think that's maybe a check in the win column for you already. I think if you're taking the stuff back to the office and waiting 2 or 3 days before, and I don't mean waiting, but it's taking you 2 or 3 days to get them a price, I think you're probably not doing the best that you could. And ultimately, you're going to run into stuff that you can't price it there, right? You've got to get prices on some special order material and all. Yes, I understand. And I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about your everyday run of the mill stuff. Also, the whole thing about pricing per foot, and yeah, we still made money. Well, you're not going to make money on every single job. It's not going to happen. So you're able to make money overall. And on the majority of jobs, yeah, they're still profitable, but there's going to be one that sneaks in there every now and then that's not so pretty. And that's just a part of it. Even when we sit down and bid jobs, we just did some job and we lost our freaking butt on it. And I mean, we went through the whole process and figured out material and labor and everything else, but some crap came up along the way and it made the job so that it was not profitable. And that's like completely fully preparing a quote or an estimate on it, right? All right. So anyway, we used to use this price per foot sheet, and the sheet was made by someone who was here, and they sat down and they spent hours in front of a calculator at a desk, pad, pencil, all of that stuff, and they came up with this big old sheet full of numbers. Well, that's great, but there wasn't any way to like update it. Right. So the only thing you could do if you wanted to update them was to sit down and redo it. So when I bought Memphis Fence, I was like, no, these numbers, they're a year or two old. Like, I have no idea if they're any good anymore. I didn't have a good system or have a good grasp even of job costing. So I couldn't really look at jobs and verify if they were profitable or not. I just knew it made me really uncomfortable. I didn't know the solution. I knew in our business to business department, those guys, they were bidding every job. And so they'd break down material, labor, overhead profits, stuff like that on every single job. And I thought, man, well, maybe that's what we need to be doing for residential too. Right. So let's go down that path. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was dead wrong. That was a terrible idea. I did it for a while, for like some weeks or maybe a month or two or something like that, and was completely overwhelmed. We had two salespeople out there running all over the place, bidding jobs and drawing up jobs. Really, they weren't even bidding them at that point. They're just drawing up jobs and bringing them all back, and it was a mess. They they weren't taught anything like how to bid a job, right? I just told them, "Hey, bring them all to me and let me do it." And I didn't put any sort of system in place. I just was the system and I tried to be a gorilla, right? So I just wrapped my arms around that whole thing and just squeezed it tight and refused to let it go for a very brief time. And then I realized it was complete insanity. And I knew that there had to be something better than that just absurdity that I was facing there. I was turning in bids way too late. I mean, they were stacking up. I couldn't do anything because there was always like that looming pressure and that big old stack of stuff that had to be bid, and it was crazy. And I was tired. I wanted to go get some sleep. We weren't delivering the level of service that we should have been delivering. We weren't selling as many jobs because it was taking so long for us to get the proposals in. And I mean, it was just a mess. Our pets' heads were falling off. Like it was all crap. So, what were we able to do? So, I made some spare time because I didn't have any. And I started to build a system. Really didn't know what was going on. Right. But I knew, hey, let's try this. Let's do this. And we spent a lot of hours and we built a giant spreadsheet that had a ton of different tabs on it for all kinds of different fence and everything else. And it was a big mess. I still have it and it is still a big mess, but it worked. And you could go in there and you could update labor cost, right? So if someone got a raise, you can go update labor costs and it would change the price of everything on the spreadsheet. Your material prices changed. You could go in there, change them. The whole spreadsheet changed. So every price per foot or per gate or the options and all that would change when you updated any of the cost. You could change your overhead, your margins, your profit, all of that kind of stuff. And it made it to where it was it was a decent system in place. Okay. It was something that we could update and something that we could actually keep current. And It was it was a lot of time in it, but it was something useful. And so depending on how the market fluctuated and, how material costs were going and all that stuff, it might get updated once a month, it might get updated every 3 months, it might get updated every week. It just, we just kind of played it by ear, right? All right, so all of that sounds great. We have the spreadsheet, price per foot, gave it back to the guys, the sales people out here trying to sell jobs, let them bid jobs right on site. It was easy to update. It was easy to keep current, right? All of those things are great. But the what did I do wrong? Yeah, you got it. I didn't teach anybody anything, right? So I didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but no one learned anything. I just did it, and I just told them the numbers, and I said, "Here's the price." And I mean, no explanation of what's behind it, no explanation of how they could calculate that, nothing like that. They were given authority to kind of manipulate the price a little bit within a certain range, so they knew they could go up or down a set percentage. So if they really wanted a job, they could go down a few points. If the job was more complicated or they knew the customer was difficult or whatever, like they had the authority to go up. Um, so then later, what we did is I was able to teach them how to add in some extra stuff. You know, uh, I don't know, something maybe that makes the job harder, take a little longer. The customer wanted something added onto the fence that wasn't on the spreadsheet, whatever it was. Like we did get to the point where they were able to do that stuff. Honestly, there wasn't ever a really great system put in place for it. It was still kind of a manual calculation, but it worked. If I were to do it today, I would have a spreadsheet or just use software. Um, it wasn't perfect. Like I said, I didn't really teach them a whole lot other than how to do the add-on stuff and all. Uh, but we did have a system. It was scalable. We could update it and it was effective. And then the biggest benefit of all of it was it freed me up to do some other things. So now, I actually could go home and go to sleep instead of falling asleep on my keyboard. That was really cool. And I could actually spend time working on other things in the business instead of just that one task. Again, we could give the price to them on site. I think it's huge. I know I've already said it once or twice. I understand that, but I think it's very important. Don't make them wait. Don't let that stuff stack up and get 10, 20, 30 behind. And it takes you a week and a half to give them a price and they're calling wanting to know where their price is. Like, no, you don't want that. Right. You don't, in my opinion, I don't ever want a customer to have to call and say, hey, where's that price? Right. I want them to have it. Uh, I mean, they may call and say, holy crap, or they may call and have questions or something like that. But and all of that is fine. These days, you can do it with software. Back then, I don't think the software in the fence world wasn't as developed as it is now. If there was any kind of options that we could have been doing that, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I was not aware of it. And so if I did it again today, which I was going to say a minute ago, I would indeed use software of some sort to make that whole process easier. Um, I don't know for sure what I would use, to be honest, but I would do some research and I would figure out some sort of software and I would try to implement that, and it's going to make life a lot easier. Time for a drink break. So, again, it freed me up. It let me go work on the business instead of having just one job to do. Okay. This is not a new concept. Well, let's go back in time a little bit, and it's now time for our history lesson of the week. When Apple started, Steve Jobs was notorious for being, they said, unbelievably controlling. Every detail, every decision, every design, every single thing had to all go through him. He had to touch it all. He had to be a part of everything they did. So nobody could do anything without him being a part of it, right? So it showed that he was passionate about what they're doing. He had a giant drive for perfection. I mean, that's good, but everyone around him wound up burned out. So eventually, the board of Apple came to the conclusion and they said, "Hey, Steve, you're the problem." And they pushed him out of Apple. So him and his buddy started the company in a garage and then he got fired from it, right? So he went out, he started Next Computers, he bought Pixar, he did a few other things. Uh, but he spent a decade learning how to lead people instead of how to control them. Now, there's a lot of story that goes along with this, but if you go listen or read or watch anything about Steve Jobs, like he was, I think, still a pretty intense fella even after this decade. But by the time actually Apple brought him back, so this was in the late 90s, and that's also a really cool story how he wound up back at Apple. I'm not going to dive into it here, but again, something that's worth a listen. So when Apple brought him back in the late 90s, he wasn't the same person. He still had this burning passion and this vision and wanted to change the world. So he still had all of those character traits, but he had learned something somewhere along the way. And he learned how to be a little bit more of a leader, right? Instead of controlling everyone, he was now leading them. And he learned if you build the right system with the right team, then you can trust them and you don't have to do it all yourself. And I think that's the main takeaway from this entire hour ish that I'm going to sit here and talk is if you build the right system with the right team, you can trust them and you don't have to do it all on your own. So this time, when he came back to Apple, he gave the designers more freedom to dream. He set the direction that he wanted to go and kind of the vision and all of that stuff, but he let them run with it. And he was still very involved. Like I said, he was still he was a handful to be around, right? Even then. But he did give people some freedom to go out and do stuff. So now what happened? Well, maybe you remember there was an iMac, an iPod, an iPhone, all of these things that made Apple Apple. Well, that all happened after he came back, right? So maybe after he had learned this lesson, and maybe as a result of him having learned this lesson, Apple was able to produce great products that he wanted to produce. So he was able to learn leadership. It's not about touching every single piece of the puzzle, right? It's about building that culture, about building the systems and make excellence automatic. So that's I believe that's a lesson we can probably apply to our own lives, right? Is we can't be the bottleneck. We have to let go. We can't be the gorilla. We can't be the hero. We can't hold on to every decision or every estimate or every drawing. Like we got to set the vision. We build the systems and then we trust the people to run with it and do what they do. All right. So remember, before we talked about Steve Jobs, we talked about the way that my progression, right? My learning through this residential fence stuff. And this was probably in 2013, something like that. And later on, because apparently I don't learn very quickly, right? I did the same thing with estimators that were bidding work to general contractors. I had this great spreadsheet that was all built out, everything awesome. And I wouldn't let them build an estimate for the longest time. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm not, yeah, I'm not comfortable with you being able to put the numbers in the spreadsheet. Like I need to do that. And I did that for a long time. And then I realized the errors of my ways, and I gave them all spreadsheets, right? And so the spreadsheets, they have logic in there. Logic, I just air quoted for anyone listening. Uh, and they'll manipulate margins and they'll do stuff like that based on the type of job, the size of job, the location of the job, different variables that go into it. But I have it set up to where that margin fluctuates. And so it fluctuates the way that I want it to fluctuate. As where before, when I calculated something, I would have, I don't know, 6 or 8 different outputs and it would all be different margins, right? So I could kind of see the spread between margins and the overall spread, and I could pick some number that was somewhere in there I felt comfortable with. So I just kind of built that in. I had to make a decision, right? Of this is how I'm going to do it, and this is the margin that's going to apply in this scenario. So it took away that, like, I don't know, shoot from the hip kind of pick one. But it was all logic that I set. The spreadsheets are built to where I can go in and manipulate that stuff whenever I want to. If I decide the margin is too high or too low or whatever that is, it's easy to go change. So there's a place for everything to go. All of the costs that are associated with the job have a spot where they belong. And all of that translates into our job costing format that we use in QuickBooks. So here's the deal with this stuff. If you're going to build something, think it through. Okay. Think about what you want to get out of it on the other end. Do you want just a price? Or do you want something that comes out that gives you a per foot cost for your material, your labor, your overhead, your profit, your per diems, like every single thing broken down per foot? Or do you just want one lump sum? And hopefully you're doing some job costing, and hopefully you need to know the material cost and the labor cost and everything else that's behind the scenes, right? And that's the way that mine is set up. And so that entire group of numbers goes directly from that spreadsheet straight into QuickBooks. And that's where our job costing begins. So now we know exactly what we had in the estimate. We know how much money we had in there for every line item. Uh, and I don't really know how to express the importance of that other than just telling you that's important. But that doesn't seem like it does it justice, right? It is important and it's a thing that you should be working towards. And I don't mean go home and, shut the door and do it tonight, but I mean, at least be thinking about it and be working towards it if you're not doing it. So, yeah, think through it and build what you want on the end at the beginning. It took me 10 years of building this spreadsheet, the same one, to figure that out. Right? And I would build it one way and it was like, okay, I get a price, and then I'd sell a job and I'd have to go back and like figure out all the numbers and everything that went into it and figure out the markups that were on it and the margins and all. And it was just a pain in the butt. And I did that over and over and over and over. Remember, I'm not a quick learner. It takes me a long stinking time before the light bulb finally goes off. It's a long way from the switch or something. I don't know, but it takes me a long time. So yeah, it took me 10 years to realize I need to build the beginning of the spreadsheet to get what I want out of the end, right? And I just kind of kept building on it and kept progressing and kept progressing, and it kept evolving. And then I did a big remake of it whenever I realized I should just give it to the estimators, right? I kind of did a big overhaul and got it all dialed in. I'm super happy with it now. But it takes time. And I say all that because it means if you build it now, it's not permanent. Okay. You can change it. Take some work, take some time, take some effort, but you can change it. Don't be afraid. Go build it. Realize it's wrong. Do it again. So I did it with the residential salespeople, right? I did it with the estimators that were bidding jobs to general contractors. And at this point, I think actually I'm just dumb. Okay. Because I did the same thing in our custom fab ornamental world. I don't know why I can't learn that lesson, but I did it again. So all the jobs we were bidding the hard way. I was very involved in the bidding process. We would have, I think, 2 meetings a week that were like standing meetings. They would come in, we'd go over the jobs, we'd go to town calculating stuff and all of that. And I finally came to the same conclusion. I said, wait a minute, you big freaking dum dum. Why are you sitting here doing this crap? So built another one. And this one, same as the residential one, except it was a lot cleaner version because I'd learned a lot. But it would allow you to change cost and it would update everything and it would calculate all your material list. It would actually give you an output of all the materials. I don't want to get too technical into this, but the way that I wanted to do ornamental fence, and I say I wanted because it didn't always work out. There were situations where we couldn't do it this way. But the way I wanted to build ornamental fence all the time was we would have all of our terminal posts, in post, gate post, corner post, stuff like that set. We would measure between them. We would build all the panels to fit. I didn't want to cut anything. I didn't want to extend anything. I refused to install a fence that has a little 2-foot panel at the end of it. So that's how the spreadsheet was set up, and it did all those calculations for you. You'd go through and you'd put in the measurement of each section between the post, and then it would calculate all the material it took, how many pickets, the picket spacing, how so that way everything was equally spaced all the way down the fence, and it was cool. And what I figured out when I was making that, because if you've never done all of that stuff, it maybe doesn't sound that complicated, but it's a bit complicated. And what I learned was if I can do the math with a calculator or with a piece of paper or whatever, I can build an Excel spreadsheet that'll do the math. I just realized something that's actually ironic about all of this. I went to civil engineering school, okay? And the way that civil engineering school works is you learn how to do these calculations. So you're calculating, a reinforced concrete beam, like the beams that hold up bridges and stuff like that. Well, we'd learn to calculate it all by hand. And we'd go through, and I mean, some of these things would take 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of 8.5 by 11 paper to do the calculations for one beam. And we'd learn it that way. And then afterwards, we would learn how to build an Excel spreadsheet that would do it for us. Now, in engineering school, it took it to a new level because you had to put all of your whole formula in one cell instead of being able to spread it out. So now when I do it, I kind of take the easy way and I spread it out. But anyway, that's the irony of it, because I went to civil engineering school before I bought Memphis Fence, and I had learned all of that stuff about Excel, and it still took me all that time. Oh gosh. Yeah, I told you. I'm not the quickest study there. But here's one thing also that I realized as I was making these show notes. I said, "Wait a minute. I'm doing all this stuff in Excel. Why doesn't it just make the proposal?" Right? I mean, I could build it to where it has drop downs for all the different specs and put in the quantities and all of that stuff right into Excel and let it kind of, at least to some extent, autofill the proposal for me. So I think that might be the next thing that I work on. I haven't done it. Like I said, I honestly only thought about it when I was making the notes for this show today. And here we are. I've been writing proposals for nearly 20 years, and I just now came to that conclusion today. So there's some point in your journey when you realize you're spending your time on the wrong thing. All right. I was spending my time bidding jobs for people instead of building a system to bid the jobs. And not once, not twice, but 3 times I went through this same cycle. Right. And I realized, no, I'm spending way too much time on this crap, put in a system, and then I could just walk away. And now it does the stuff. So I've been trying to learn for years and years and years about spending my time on the wrong thing. And I think I've made it 17% of the way there. So great progress. Great progress. Um, there's still times when I realize I'm doing stuff wrong. Right? It happens all the time. Sometimes I'm writing show notes and I go, oh, wait a minute, that's dumb. Sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night and go, what? Right? It just depends. But I mean, these things just come to me sometimes. I step back, I realize I'm screwing it up, and I see that I'm restricting people, or I see that I'm spending my time in the wrong place. So, what are you doing that you should have a system in place to do for you and free you up to go do something else? Surely somebody out there has something. So, go build that system, figure it out, spend the time. So, what's the point of all this? Well, the point is if you want to grow, you got to let go, right? That's it. You got to accept that people are going to mess up. You mess up. I mess up. They're going to mess up, right? We all do it. We're all human. We mess up. And when they do, don't beat them down, right? Improve the system, improve the training, and build a team by teaching them and building them up. Don't beat them down because they mess up. There's probably some equation that you could do somewhere, if you're doing all of the estimates, right? And what's your max revenue that you can possibly generate a year if you work every day of the entire year? There's probably some way you can figure that out. Now, if you add another team member and you give them the ability to do that, what's that going to do to your revenue? Right? Because I mean, assuming you have the call volume, I suspect you might increase your revenue by 50 or 60 or 70% or something like that. Find some people that are better than you, and you might even increase it more. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's see. Mark Cobb says all of our sign quotes are done on Excel quote program and prints out the proposal sheet. It's made our customer service rep lives much easier. There you go. So now somebody else told you instead of me. I haven't got the proposal part yet, but I'm going to work on that. Yeah. All right. So trust some people, let them do it, let them mess up. You can't be the bottleneck, right? You've got to give people the freedom and the tools to do the work. Uh, you just build some spreadsheets. I mean, there's free versions of Excel that exist, right? It's going to cost you time. Go watch some YouTube videos, learn how to use it, and go build it. So because I built these spreadsheets and I used my logic in them and my calculations and my equations and everything else, it's basically me bidding the jobs without bidding the jobs, though, right? So the the systems are how you can let go without losing control, right? And you teach people how to use the system. And yeah, they learn, right? Remember the one spreadsheet that I have, it puts all of our cost and our margins and everything in there because those numbers go straight into our accounting system for job costing. And so they get to see it. Okay. They get to see it, right? Sorry. But we're getting close right now. I think before too long, we're just going to be able to teach AI how to do it, right? And I mean, build the systems or maybe even fill in the stuff that you make with the system. You may be able to do it now. I hadn't figured it out. There might be a way, but it's coming. So if you want to leave your office for a week and not have to worry and not check your phone and not check your email and not go spend the night sitting at your computer while you're on vacation and all of that stuff, you got to put the right people in the right place with the right tools. You got to let them do it, make mistakes, let them learn, help them grow, do all of that stuff. Now, here's the hard part, okay? All of that was easy. It's easy to talk about. It is hard. It is genuinely hard. We want to wear this overwhelm as some sort of badge of honor. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but we want to wear it as a badge of honor, right? Because we want to talk to our buddies about how busy we are, right? Oh, how's things going, man? Y'all busy? Oh yeah, I'm so busy, man. I can't even leave. I can't leave at night. I can't get up in the morning. That doesn't make sense. Can't leave at night. I don't get no sleep. I'm so busy. I'm overwhelmed. I'm all of this. Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard to delegate stuff and trust that it's going to get done correctly is another piece of it. So we got those two things, right? And we fear the mistakes. They're scary. We're afraid to trust people. We're afraid they're going to make mistakes. And what do we think? They're going to put us out of business because they mess something up. Monitor the stuff enough so that they can't do that, right? So that you see the mistakes and you can catch them and you can teach them and you can help them grow. Empower your people. So what I want is I want to be completely useless when I show up to work. I want to go outside and I want to walk around and pick up tie wire that have been laying in the gravel for 3 years and celebrate when I find a whole bag of them. Right? That's what I want to do. And then when I talk to my buddies, I want to tell them that I'm bored because the team here is so great and they're doing it all. I have nothing to do. All right. And to me, that's way more impressive than being busy. So there you go. That's it. That's how you build a business that thrives. Even when you're not standing there watching it, it's still going to run and it's going to keep doing the thing. Now, all you have to do is go do it. And I'll see you next week.